Lord of the Rings Online is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game set in the world of Middle-earth based on the popular Lord of the Rings books series by J.R.R. Tolkien. The latest update Before the Shadow that was released on November 15, 2022 has something for everyone, whether you are launching your first adventure or whether you are a returning veteran in search of the latest elusive loot. Is Before the Shadow really worth playing? Let's find out. In Before the Shadow, there is a completely new beginner's area and storyline to follow. The writing of this story was so good that I literally cried at the end. I would suggest you keep the Kleenex close at hand. What is different about this new beginner's area is that for the first time it allows all races to play the exact same beginner's storyline. This means that if you want to be a dwarf and your friend wants to be a hobbit, you can start together in the same zone and level up together. Cardolan and Swanfleet are the two new maps, and I was really excited to see what these two new areas had to offer. I've long been awaiting getting past those brigands south of Bree. The quests in the new area are from level 1 all the way up to level 30. You can either just follow the central storyline, or you can branch off and go do side quests. The central storyline ties back into the main epic quest series once you get to Weathertop. I won't give too much away, but it was exciting to see Boromir. To me, he is an unsung hero. I think many people can relate to Boromir, and so I'm happy to see him have at least a small part in this opening sequence to Before the Shadow. If you are getting stuck with the Before the Shadow quests, then be sure to look at the live stream videos where I provide a walkthrough of all the quests in the Cardolan and Swanfleet regions. You can find the link to the first one in the series in the description below. There is much to do and see in Swanfleet and Cardolan. My favorite place in Swanfleet was the hobbit village in the mountains called Lintref. I thought the views from this village were absolutely spectacular. I also liked the Caras Gelebren ruins. If you play the new Skirmish Doom of Caras Gelebren that launched with Before the Shadow, you'll get to see this city at the peak of its glory. So it was interesting walking through the ruins, trying to, in my mind, map out how it had changed from its original. In Cardolan, the storyline through Herne was fun and engaging. I do feel that the new Skirmish Doom of Caras Gelebren was a bit tacky, but definitely a way to leverage the Amazon Rings of Power TV series. In the Skirmish, you protect Gelebren from the attacking armies that have come to steal the rings for Sauron. The Skirmish can be completed as solo, duo, small fellowship, or a full raid on 3 different tiers. Obviously, the higher the tier and the larger the group, the better the rewards. The most notable endgame piece that dropped from here was the cloak. At level 140, this cloak has excellent base stats, but can be upgraded via the delving system, which I will discuss at the end. A couple of weeks after the release of Before the Shadow, SSG also released the new 6-man called Sarch Vorn. This can easily be farmed at tier 2, but the last boss on tier 3 is the hardest, but also gives the nice rewards. Tier 4 of Sarch Vorn was released on January 5, and tier 5 is being planned to be released on 12th January. Sarch Vorn now drops the best in-class necklace and bracelets, so if you have the time and patience to slug through those, then you will be pleasantly surprised by the loot. At level 140, the necklace has excellent base stats, but can be upgraded via the delving system, which I'll discuss shortly. I've created a series that will walk you through the entire Sarch Vorn Tier 3 experience with loads of useful information and tips. Click on the link in the description below to start watching those videos. Note that both Doom of Caras Gelebren and Sarch Vorn can be played at lower levels. The true rewards, however, only kick in if you are playing it at level cap, which is currently level 140. Before the Shadow introduced a new twist for the mission system, in that the missions can now be tiered from tier 1 to tier 10. Higher tiers are more difficult to complete, but yield more tokens to be used in exchange for gear from the quartermaster. This mechanism was put in place to provide solo players an opportunity to grind for best-in-slot armor that is comparable to what drops from the endgame 12-person raid Hidden Horde of Abnankara. The only difference is that the solo pieces do not have the set bonuses. The delving system is complex to use because you simply can't choose the tier like you do in the instance finder. You have to have a specific delving stone to set the difficulty level once you load into the instance. The benefit of having it set up this way is that you force endgame players at level cap to go to these lower zones giving new players an opportunity to see these veterans interact with them and ask questions. The downside is that you physically have to travel to each location to start these missions, as opposed to just hopping into the instance finder and launching it from anywhere. For now, the mission system is here to stay, and is something that we will have to contend with. Note that low levels can also play these missions. You do not have to be level capped to play these. Here then are the pros to playing Before the Shadow. New maps to explore with Cardolan and Swanfleet make the explorer in me very happy. The new storyline to enjoy if you're interested in stories and actually take the time to read the quests. The ability for all races to play the same beginning storyline, that you can enjoy this with any of your friends. The new endgame armor that can be obtained from solo play, although going with a friend makes the missions go so much faster. First new skirmish in many years, and I'm glad they brought a skirmish back in the Doom of Gelebren. Here are the cons. Not being able to join missions from anywhere in Middle Earth, but having to physically travel to the NPCs to start these up. No endgame story content, which is upsetting since there really is nothing new for endgame players to do for the next year. This is causing many players to move on to other games. No endgame 12-person raid for the foreseeable future. Hidden Horde remains the endgame raid, going now into its second year, and for those that have mastered it, this prospect of waiting another year is a disaster. Whether you choose to dive back into Middle-earth or take it easy to the next endgame release, the choice is yours to make. However, we eagerly await your arrival and can't wait to play side by side as we take down that dragon. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like and subscribe button, and if you're so inclined, please consider becoming a patron over at Patreon. Next up, I recommend you to watch the Sarch Vorn series to get a head start and go for that necklace and bracelet.